What is this? This is a tablet. To be more specific, this is an iPad mini, a black one. I have this since 2012. It has no 3G on it, so I need Wi-Fi to connect. Because without Wi-Fi, I can't really do anything with it, to be honest. Am I advertising for Apple here? No. I'm using this as a parable. Look, this is an electronic device. It's obvious. So, in order for it to work, there needs to be electricity. Without electricity, it will not work. That's simple. So, let's open it. When you open it, I have a message of someone from Finland. Hold on, I'll answer your message as soon as possible. So you open it. This is my YouTube account. And well, here are the applications, the apps that are on it. And the background is just an historic map of ancient Italy. Not made in ancient times, but you get what I'm saying. Now, why am I using an iPad as a parable? Because understand this. Every app you have on here, let me put it close so you can see it. Every app has a code. And you need the Wi-Fi to be connected. So let's say you have Microsoft Outlook over here. When I activate Microsoft Outlook, through the Wi-Fi it connects to the server of Microsoft. And when it connects with the server of Microsoft, then I have access to my email messages over there. I hope this is clear. So yes, I have a Microsoft account, and there are messages over there, even files over there. But in order to access them, I need to have a device, an electronic device, connected to the internet, to the network, and I need to activate the application in order to be connected for me to access what's on that server of Microsoft on my account. And that's how all applications work. When if it's Instagram, Instagram has a database. You have the app either on your tablet or your mobile phone, or sometimes even on your PC, and you connect through the application, connects through to the server. Alright? It's evening now, so I'm trying to keep my voice slow as possible. Why am I making this video? Because when it comes to the spiritual, it's kind of the same thing. But often people miss this. Because just like an application, because an application takes space on your hard drive. In this case, I'm not sure if they call it a hard drive, but there is a capacity to save stuff on this iPad. This one is, I believe, 32 gigabyte, and every application you put on it has some space that it takes. And with that space, there comes residue files and all of it. So you can only access the database of something if you have the application on your tablet. So let's replace an iPad with the soul of someone. In your soul, you have the thinking. And let's say that in your thinking, you have certain thought patterns. Those thought patterns are like applications. Anytime something happens, one of those applications is triggered, is activated. So think about this. If you have a way of thinking somewhere that does not line up with Christ, that means it lines up with the paranormal. And that means that that application is there, so it can be activated. And let's say that your whole thinking is not in line with Christ. There's no Christ likeness in your thinking at all. That means that you're filled with darkness. Plain and simple. And if someone is filled with darkness, even if they are a believer, Satan has them. He has access to them. Satan isn't even going to make any efforts on that individual. You know why? Because Everything that individual receives through the five senses, or every circumstance the individual is in, will trigger those wrong thinking patterns. So you don't really have to persecute such an individual to trap them. They're already trapped, and they're not even aware that they are trapped. So if you have an individual who has, let's say, I talked about applications on a tablet now. If someone has demonic applications in their thinking, applications they can't see that they're demonic, and those are also applications they hold dear, they invest in. Such an individual has a it such individual, him or herself, becomes a stronghold, a walking stronghold that demons feed off. And you have many of such people out there. Now what is going on here? Imagine a sponge. Just a sponge, okay? What happens when you throw a sponge in a bucket of water? The sponge will absorb the water, and the amount of water in the bucket will become less because the water is replaced into the sponge. So what happens when you pick up a sponge? It's heavy, and you have water dripping out from it. I'm sorry, it's evening here, so I'm a bit tired, but yeah, I still wanted to make this video. So when you throw a sponge in a bucket of water, it will absorb the water, and when you pick the sponge up, it's dripping of water. You get wet. So getting in contact with a sponge after it has absorbed water makes you wet. Why? Because you are in contact with the water. You can't pick up a sponge that has been in water or in liquid and not be in contact with the liquid. To just have the sponge, you need to have a dry sponge somewhere in a wardrobe that you never use. Only then you can pick the sponge and you only get the sponge. But the moment the sponge has become active, you get in contact with whatever the sponge has absorbed, whether good or bad. So, where am I going with this? When someone's thinking doesn't line up with Christ and they keep investing their thinking, they're like a sponge. They absorb the waste energy around them. That waste energy becomes attached to them, and demons going to feed off of it. Now, where am I going with this? Okay, let's say now you have an individual that's been wounded, whether by their parents or by the society as a whole, or by some significant figure in their upbringing. It doesn't matter. The individual is wounded, and the individual has learned to cope with stuff because he or she could not solve it, because it wasn't theirs to solve, because it wasn't them causing it. They have bad thinking patterns that are fueled by the environment. The environment doesn't want to face that individual because they don't want to face that they're responsible for what they call society. They just want to leave. So what happens now? People begin to act weird against that individual, pointing out their defects and energizing their defects. And what happens now? That individual receives all that negative energy towards him or her. And because they already have wrong thinking patterns, their energy is already open and broken for demons to hang into it. So what happens now is that individual becomes a sponge that absorbs negativity. And what happens now? Such an individual can easily become the target of physical violence, and it can be that wherever that individual goes, he or she encounters someone that wants to treat them bad, or someone who so-called doesn't like them for no reason, or someone just wants to lay hands on them to hit them or to sexually molest them. Why? Because they become a paranormal sponge. And some people around notice that there's something wrong with the individual, but those people have no interest in helping individual. Most of the time they just want to leave, they want to be left alone. So what happens? They're going to energize that negativity that's already there so that they are relieved. This sounds a bit cruel, but that's how people in the world are. They just want to be relieved, want to be left alone. They want to validate their will at all costs, and they're willingly to energize negativity on someone else to be relieved. That's what a lot of people do. Even though often they will claim they're there to help people, but something completely different is going on. Well, when you're faced with a paranormal sponge, as a believer, you pray. Of course, you pray. And you destroy the strongholds. When you destroy the strongholds, the sponge cannot attract it anymore. And that's how that individual can be delivered. You don't tell the individual to behave. You don't tell the individual to go to therapy, even though if they need therapy, you can send them to therapy. But what do? First of all, in the spirit, you break the stronghold. You're not going to talk bad about the individual or for individual for having reasons not to like the individual. Why? Because then you're operating in the negative and you are energizing the negative. Yeah, that's what you're doing. I don't care about your so-called free will and your right to will. No, you're energizing the negative. So as a believer, you break the strongholds. And after the stronghold has been broken, you speak the good into someone's environment, into someone's life. That's what you do. So, this video has been over 11 minutes. I didn't intend to make it this long. Man, I really need to speak to this Finnish individual. But, for now, understand this. There are paranormal sponges out there. And I've taken my time and I've used modern day technology as a parable to explain it onto you. So, when there is an intoxicating environment, what often happens? The individual who is the most vulnerable, paranormally speaking, becomes a sponge. And the sponge is the one absorbing the bad intentions, and the rest of the people are relieved. And people often don't want to admit their contribution at all, because they don't want to deal with their waste energies. They just want to get rid of them. And people that notice the paranormal sponge, they have a reason, an excuse to hate the sponge because they want relief. And most of the time people in the world agree with it. Well, not believers, not those in agreement with Christ. Well, I'm about to close now. Remain in peace, keep praying, agree with Christ. Shalom.